In this video, I want to share a deeply personal story that intertwines heartbreak and an unsettling experience I had while traveling in Colorado. After my breakup with Carly, I found myself navigating a whirlwind of emotions, grief, confusion, and a sense of loss that felt almost suffocating. The end of our relationship left a void that I struggled to fill, and in an attempt to escape the memories that haunted me, I decided to embark on a solo trip to the breathtaking wilderness of Colorado. This journey was meant to be a form of healing, a way to reconnect with myself amidst the stunning landscapes and serene nature. However, what I encountered was far from the peaceful retreat I had envisioned. As I ventured deeper into the Colorado wilderness, I was met with an overwhelming sense of isolation that mirrored my emotional state. The towering mountains and vast, empty spaces felt both majestic and intimidating, amplifying my feelings of loneliness. It was during this time of reflection that I began to confront the raw emotions I had been suppressing since the breakup. The beauty of the surroundings was starkly contrasted by the chilling memories of my past relationship, and I found myself grappling with the reality of moving on. But as the days passed, something eerie began to unfold. Strange occurrences started to disrupt my solitude, unexplained sounds in the night, shadows that seemed to linger just beyond my line of sight, and an unsettling feeling that I was not alone in this vast expanse. These experiences added a layer of suspense to my journey, transforming what was meant to be a healing retreat into a chilling exploration of both the external wilderness and my internal struggles. The juxtaposition of my emotional turmoil and the haunting beauty of Colorado created a narrative that was both captivating and unsettling. I invite you to join me as I recount this journey, where the echoes of a lost love intertwined with the eerie whispers of the Colorado wild. Together, we will explore how heartbreak can lead us to unexpected places, both within ourselves and in the world around us. This story is not just about a breakup. It's about the chilling experiences that can arise when we confront our deepest fears and the unknown. So, settle in as I take you through this haunting yet transformative chapter of my life, where the wilderness of Colorado became a backdrop for both reflection and suspense. The breakup with Carly was a moment I had dreaded yet somehow anticipated. Our relationship had been filled with laughter and shared dreams, but over time, cracks began to form. I noticed subtle changes in her behavior, late nights, secretive phone calls, and a growing distance that I couldn't quite place. It wasn't until I stumbled upon a message on her phone that the truth hit me like a freight train. Carly had been having an affair. The betrayal cut deep, leaving me reeling in a whirlwind of emotions. Confronting her was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I remember the way my heart raced as I approached her, the mixture of anger and sadness swirling within me. When I finally laid out my suspicions, her silence spoke volumes. The look in her eyes shifted from guilt to defiance, and in that moment, I felt my world shatter. The person I had trusted most had betrayed me in the most profound way, and the pain of that realization was almost unbearable. I felt a deep sense of sadness wash over me, mingled with a bitter taste of betrayal. It was as if the foundation of my life had crumbled, leaving me standing amidst the rubble of what once was. The days that followed were a blur of tears and sleepless nights. I found myself replaying memories of our time together, questioning every moment, every laugh, and every promise we had made. The emotional turmoil was relentless. I felt lost and adrift, grappling with feelings of inadequacy and rejection. I had invested so much of myself into our relationship, and now it felt as if I was left with nothing but echoes of a love that had turned sour. In the midst of this chaos, I realized that I needed to escape, to find a place where I could confront my feelings without the constant reminders of Carly. That's when the idea of Colorado came to me. The vast, untouched wilderness seemed like the perfect antidote to my heartache. I envisioned a journey where I could immerse myself in nature, away from the noise of my everyday life and the memories that haunted me. The thought of solitude in the Colorado wilderness was both terrifying and liberating. I craved the chance to reflect on my emotions, to process the betrayal and sadness that had consumed me. So, with a heavy heart and a desperate need for clarity, I made the decision to leave everything behind and embark on this journey. Little did I know that this escape would lead me to confront not only my heartbreak but also the chilling experiences that awaited me in the wild. As I arrived at the ski resort in Colorado, the breathtaking scenery took my breath away. Towering snow-capped mountains surrounded the lodge, their peaks glistening under the bright winter sun. The air was crisp and invigorating, filled with the scent of pine and the faint sound of laughter echoing from the slopes. The resort itself was a charming blend of rustic elegance, with wooden beams and stone fireplaces that created a warm, inviting atmosphere. Amenities like a cozy lounge, a well-stocked bar, and a spa promised relaxation after a long day on the slopes. I could see guests enjoying hot cocoa by the fire, their faces glowing with joy and camaraderie, a stark contrast to the turmoil I felt inside. As I stepped into the lodge, a wave of isolation washed over me. The cheerful chatter of families and groups of friends filled the air, their laughter ringing out like a reminder of the connections I had lost. I felt like an outsider, a solitary figure amidst a sea of warmth and togetherness. The staff, however, seemed to sense my unease. A friendly receptionist greeted me with a genuine smile, her eyes filled with understanding as she handed me my room key. "If you need anything, just let us know," she said, her tone sympathetic. I appreciated her kindness, but it only highlighted my loneliness. As I settled into my room, I took a moment to gaze out the window at the stunning landscape. The snow-covered slopes beckoned, but I felt an overwhelming heaviness in my heart. I was surrounded by people who were clearly enjoying their time, sharing stories and laughter, while I was grappling with the remnants of my heartbreak. I watched as families bundled up in colorful ski gear made their way to the lifts, their excitement palpable. Couples held hands, their faces lit up with joy, while groups of friends playfully teased each other, their bonds evident in every shared glance. In stark contrast, I felt like a ghost, drifting through the resort without a purpose. I was there to heal, to find solace in the beauty of the Colorado wilderness. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling of being utterly alone. The initial impressions of the resort were a mix of awe and melancholy. The stunning surroundings were a reminder of the joy I had lost. I longed to be part of the laughter and connection that filled the air. But instead, I found myself retreating into my thoughts, grappling with the emotional weight of my recent past. The ski resort was a beautiful escape, but it also served as a poignant backdrop to my struggle for healing and self-discovery. During my stay at the ski resort, I found myself reluctantly drawn into conversations with other guests, each interaction offering a brief respite from my emotional turmoil. One evening, while nursing a drink by the fireplace, I struck up a conversation with Tyler and Ginger, a couple in their late 30s. They were both visibly exhausted, their faces etched with the weariness of parenthood. Tyler, a tall man with a scruffy beard, shared stories of their 2 young children, recounting the chaos of family life with a mix of humor and exasperation. "You wouldn't believe the amount of snow gear we had to pack for just a weekend trip," he laughed, shaking his head. Ginger chimed in, her eyes sparkling with a blend of affection and frustration. And don't even get me started on the tantrums. I swear, I've never seen a child throw a fit over a pair of mittens before. Their candidness about the struggles of parenting resonated with me, and for a moment, I felt a sense of connection. It was refreshing to hear their laughter, a reminder that life, despite its challenges, could still be filled with joy. As they shared their stories, I found myself momentarily distracted from my own pain, caught up in their world of sleepless nights and family adventures. Later that evening, I encountered a hipster couple in the lounge, their quirky behavior adding a light-hearted touch to the atmosphere. They were dressed in mismatched layers of colorful clothing, complete with beanies and oversized glasses. As they sat nearby, I overheard snippets of their conversation, which was filled with references to obscure indie bands and artisanal coffee. "I can't believe they don't have oat milk here," the woman exclaimed dramatically, her voice rising above the chatter. Her partner nodded earnestly. "Right? It's like, how can we enjoy the slopes without our ethically sourced lattes?" Their playful banter was infectious, and I couldn't help but chuckle at their antics. They were so immersed in their own world that it was impossible not to smile at their enthusiasm. The couple's carefree attitude provided a much-needed distraction, allowing me to forget, if only for a moment, the heartache that had brought me to Colorado. As I engaged with Tyler, Ginger, and the hipster couple, I realized that these interactions, however brief, were helping me navigate my own feelings of isolation. Each conversation offered a glimpse into lives filled with their own struggles and joys, reminding me that everyone carries their own burdens. In those moments of laughter and shared experiences, I found a temporary escape from my pain, a reminder that connection, even in its simplest form, could be a balm for the soul. The warmth of their camaraderie enveloped me, and for the first time in days, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the shadows of my heartbreak. One evening, as I wandered through the dimly lit corridors of the ski resort, I encountered a woman who would leave an indelible mark on my experience. She stood at the edge of the lobby, her striking blonde hair cascading down her back like a waterfall of sunlight. Her features were sharp and captivating, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold secrets of their own. Dressed in a sleek black ski jacket and fitted pants, she exuded an air of confidence that was both alluring and unsettling. There was something about her presence that sent a shiver down my spine, a feeling that I couldn't quite shake off. As I observed her from a distance, I noticed the way she scanned the room, her gaze lingering on the other guests with an intensity that felt intrusive. It was as if she were searching for something or someone. The atmosphere around her seemed to shift, the laughter and chatter of the other guests fading into a hushed murmur. I felt an inexplicable urge to approach her, yet a voice in my head warned me to keep my distance. Later that night, I returned to the front desk to inquire about the resort's amenities. The receptionist, a kind woman with warm brown eyes, seemed unusually tense as I spoke with her. "Have you seen that blonde woman?" I asked, recalling the striking figure I had encountered earlier. The receptionist's expression shifted, her brow furrowing with concern. "You mean the one who's not registered here?" she replied, her voice low. "I've noticed her hanging around, but she doesn't seem to belong to any of the groups." Her words sent a chill through me. The idea that this mysterious woman was an unregistered guest added an unsettling layer to my experience. I could see the receptionist's unease mirrored in her eyes, and it only heightened my own sense of apprehension. "I'll keep an eye out," she added, glancing nervously toward the lobby. As I left the front desk, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The blonde woman's presence loomed in my mind, and I felt an inexplicable connection to her, as if our paths were destined to cross again. The atmosphere in the resort had shifted, and I sensed that the tranquility I had sought was beginning to unravel. Little did I know that this encounter was merely the beginning of a series of ominous events that would unfold during my stay. The air felt charged with an unspoken tension, and I couldn't help but wonder what secrets the blonde woman held. As I retreated to my room, the shadows seemed to deepen, and I felt a growing sense of foreboding. The allure of the Colorado wilderness was beginning to take on a darker hue, and I braced myself for the mysteries that lay ahead. The atmosphere at the lodge was electric that evening, filled with laughter and excitement as guests gathered for a special proposal event. The rustic charm of the lodge was adorned with twinkling fairy lights and vibrant decorations, creating a magical ambience that seemed to pulse with joy. Couples and families mingled, their faces glowing with anticipation, while the scent of delicious food wafted through the air, mingling with the crispness of the Colorado night. I watched from a distance, feeling like an outsider in a world that was celebrating love and commitment, emotions that felt painfully distant from my own reality. As the moment approached, the crowd hushed, and all eyes turned toward the center of the room. A young man, clearly nervous yet excited, stepped forward, holding a small velvet box in his trembling hands. The woman he loved stood before him, her eyes wide with surprise and delight. As he dropped to one knee and proposed, the room erupted in cheers and applause, the sound echoing off the wooden beams of the lodge. I couldn't help but feel a pang of longing as I witnessed their joy, a stark reminder of the love I had lost with Carly. The contrast between their happiness and my internal struggle was jarring. While they celebrated a new beginning, I was grappling with the remnants of a painful ending. As the couple embraced, tears of joy streaming down the woman's face, I felt a wave of loneliness wash over me. I clutched my drink tightly, trying to drown out the laughter and cheers that surrounded me. The warmth of the celebration felt like a cruel joke, amplifying my sense of isolation. I wanted to be happy for them, to share in their joy, but the weight of my heartbreak made it difficult to fully engage. I found myself retreating to a corner of the room, watching the festivities unfold like a spectator in a world that no longer felt like mine. Just as the couple shared their first kiss as an engaged pair, the lights dimmed, and the crowd erupted into applause once more. The excitement reached a fever pitch as the lodge prepared for a fireworks display outside. I stepped onto the balcony, the cold air biting at my skin, and looked out at the darkening sky. The first firework exploded in a burst of color, illuminating the night and casting fleeting shadows across the faces of the guests below. Each explosion of light was met with gasps and cheers, but I felt a growing sense of unease. As the night progressed, the celebratory atmosphere began to shift. The vibrant colors of the fireworks, once a symbol of joy, now felt ominous against the backdrop of my internal struggle. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking just beyond the glow of the lights, a reminder that even in moments of celebration, darkness could creep in. The contrast between the jubilant celebration and my own heartache set the stage for a night that would soon take an unexpected turn, leaving me to wonder what awaited me in the shadows of the Colorado wilderness. As the fireworks display illuminated the night sky, I felt a strange shift in the atmosphere around the lodge. The initial joy and celebration that had filled the air began to dissipate, replaced by an unsettling tension that crept in like a chill. I noticed subtle changes in the behavior of the guests. Laughter turned into hushed whispers, and smiles faded into anxious glances. It was as if a dark cloud had settled over the festivities, casting a shadow on the once jubilant scene. I watched as a group of guests huddled together, their expressions tight and worried. They exchanged furtive looks, their laughter now tinged with nervousness. One man, who had been part of the proposal celebration, suddenly stood up, his face pale and eyes wide. He stumbled away from the group, muttering something under his breath that I couldn't quite catch. The others followed him with concerned expressions, but their concern quickly morphed into confusion as he disappeared into the shadows of the lodge. As I stood on the balcony, the sounds of the fireworks faded, replaced by an eerie silence that enveloped the resort. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as I scanned the crowd, noticing more guests exhibiting strange behavior. A woman clutched her partner's arm tightly, her eyes darting around as if she sensed something lurking just beyond the reach of the light. Another couple, who had been celebrating with champagne moments earlier, now stood apart, their voices raised in a heated argument. The tension was palpable, and I could feel the unease spreading like wildfire. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from inside the lodge, followed by a series of shouts. My heart raced as I turned to see a group of guests rushing toward the source of the commotion. Panic erupted as people began to scatter, their faces etched with fear. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I instinctively moved closer to the entrance, curiosity and dread battling within me. Chaos erupted as more guests joined the fray, some shouting for help while others screamed in terror. I caught glimpses of a scuffle breaking out near the bar, where a man had grabbed another by the collar, their faces twisted in rage. The festive atmosphere had transformed into a scene of violence, and I realized with growing horror that something was seriously wrong. The once celebratory lodge now felt like a pressure cooker, ready to explode. I could hear the frantic whispers of guests trying to make sense of the chaos, their voices rising in panic. My instinct screamed at me to get out, to escape the madness that was unfolding around me. I felt a cold sweat trickle down my back as I turned to leave the balcony, the weight of dread settling heavily in my chest. The night had taken a dark turn, and I knew that whatever was happening at the resort was just the beginning of something far more sinister. As I stepped away from the chaos on the balcony, my heart raced with a mix of fear and confusion. The festive atmosphere had morphed into something nightmarish, and I felt an overwhelming urge to escape the lodge. Just as I turned to head inside, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air, freezing me in my tracks. It was a sound that sent chills down my spine, and I instinctively moved toward the source, drawn by a morbid curiosity that I couldn't shake. What I witnessed next was a scene that would haunt me forever. In the dim light of the lodge, I saw the hipster woman, the one who had been so carefree just hours earlier, now standing in the center of a gruesome tableau. Her vibrant clothing was splattered with blood, and her eyes were wide with a mix of shock and exhilaration. She was holding a knife, its blade glistening ominously under the flickering lights. Before her lay the two betrothed men, their faces twisted in horror as they struggled on the floor. One of them was clutching his side, blood seeping through his fingers, while the other writhed in agony, his eyes darting between the woman and the chaos unfolding around them. The surreal quality of the scene felt like something out of a twisted dream, a nightmare that had come to life. I could hardly process what was happening. It felt as if time had slowed, each moment stretching into eternity. Guests were screaming, some trying to flee while others stood frozen in shock, unable to comprehend the horror before them. The laughter and joy of the proposal had been replaced by cries of terror, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. My instinct screamed at me to run, to get as far away from this madness as possible. But my feet felt rooted to the ground, paralyzed by the sheer shock of the scene. As the hipster woman laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the lodge, I finally found the strength to move. I turned and sprinted down the corridor, my heart pounding in my chest. The sounds of chaos followed me, a cacophony of screams and shouts that seemed to grow louder with each step. I could feel the walls closing in, the lodge transforming from a place of refuge into a labyrinth of terror. Desperation fueled my flight as I raced toward the exit, my mind racing with thoughts of escape. I could hear footsteps behind me, the frantic movements of other guests trying to find safety. The air felt thick with panic, and I could barely breathe as I pushed through the door leading outside. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but it was a welcome relief from the suffocating atmosphere inside. I stumbled into the snow, my breath coming in ragged gasps as I looked back at the lodge, now a beacon of horror. The surreal quality of the events that had unfolded felt like a fever dream, but the reality of the bloodshed was all too real. I was filled with a sense of dread, knowing that whatever had taken hold of the resort was far from over. I had to escape, to put as much distance between myself and the nightmare as possible, but the darkness of the Colorado wilderness loomed ahead, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The cold air bit at my skin as I stumbled away from the lodge, my heart racing with a mix of fear and adrenaline. The chaos inside had erupted into a nightmare, and I knew I had to escape before the darkness consumed me. I glanced back at the lodge, its warm glow now a sinister beacon against the night sky, and felt a surge of panic. I had to find a way out, but the path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. As I sprinted through the snow, my breath came in ragged gasps, each inhalation a reminder of the terror I had just witnessed. The crunch of my footsteps echoed in the stillness, a stark contrast to the chaos I had left behind. I could hear distant screams and shouts, the sounds of desperation mingling with the eerie silence of the wilderness. My mind raced as I searched for an escape route, my thoughts a jumbled mess of fear and confusion. I headed toward the parking lot, hoping to find my car, but as I approached, I realized it was empty. Panic surged within me. I was trapped in this frozen landscape with no means of escape. The lodge loomed behind me, a dark silhouette against the night, and I could feel the weight of the chaos pressing down on me. I turned back, scanning the area for any sign of life, but all I saw were shadows moving in the distance, figures that seemed to lurk just beyond the reach of the light. The emotional toll of my escape attempt began to weigh heavily on me. My heart raced not just from the physical exertion but from the sheer terror of what I had witnessed. I could still hear the hipster woman's chilling laughter echoing in my mind, a haunting reminder of the violence that had erupted. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I stumbled through the snow, my legs growing heavy with exhaustion. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me, the sound growing louder as I turned to look. A group of guests, once joyful and carefree, now appeared as predators, their faces twisted with rage and madness. They moved with a predatory grace, eyes glinting in the darkness, and I felt a surge of terror as I realized they were hunting. I had become their prey. With a renewed sense of urgency, I darted into the trees, the branches scratching at my skin as I pushed through the underbrush. The cold air burned my lungs, but I couldn't stop. I had to keep moving. The sounds of pursuit grew closer, and I could hear their shouts, taunting and mocking, as they reveled in the hunt. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a reminder of the danger that lurked just behind me. I stumbled deeper into the woods, the darkness enveloping me like a shroud. The snow crunched beneath my feet, but I couldn't afford to slow down. I felt the weight of despair creeping in, the realization that I was utterly alone in this vast wilderness. The physical toll of my escape was becoming unbearable, but I pushed through the pain, driven by the primal instinct to survive. As I ran, I could feel the presence of the guests-turned-predators closing in, their laughter echoing through the trees. I had to find a way out, to escape the nightmare that had unfolded at the resort. But with every step, the darkness seemed to close in around me, and I knew that time was running out, so I started running harder and didn't look back. The snow crunched beneath my feet as I sprinted away from the resort, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I could hear the chaos behind me, but I focused on the path ahead, driven by a primal instinct to survive. The horrors of the night were behind me, but I knew that the danger was far from over. I had to keep moving, to escape the nightmare that had consumed the resort, and find safety before it was too late. The aftermath of the horrific events at the resort left a chilling imprint on my mind, one that I couldn't shake even as I stumbled into the small town nearby, breathless and disoriented. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch ominously across the snow-covered ground. I was desperate for answers, but as I approached the local authorities, I was met with skepticism and disbelief. The sheriff, a burly man with a grizzled beard and a skeptical gaze, listened to my frantic account of the chaos at the resort with crossed arms and a furrowed brow. "You're telling me that several people were stabbed, and people are missing?" he asked, his tone dripping with doubt. I nodded vigorously, my heart racing as I recounted the events, the proposal, the celebration, the chaos that had erupted overnight. But the sheriff merely shook his head, dismissing my fears as the ramblings of a man who had been through a traumatic experience. "We haven't received any reports of missing persons," he said, his voice steady but unyielding. "You must have been mistaken." Frustration bubbled within me as I tried to explain that I had seen the woman's body, that I had felt the palpable fear among the guests. But the sheriff's expression remained unchanged, and I could see that he was unwilling to entertain the idea that something sinister had occurred at the resort. I left his office feeling more isolated than ever, the weight of disbelief heavy on my shoulders. As I wandered through the town, I overheard snippets of conversation that only deepened my unease. Locals spoke in hushed tones about the resort, their expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. I learned that several guests had gone missing in the days following the chaos, their names whispered among the townsfolk as if they were ghosts haunting the area. The realization sent a chill down my spine. I wasn't the only one who had witnessed the horrors at the resort, yet it felt as if the truth was being buried beneath layers of denial. The mysterious blonde woman lingered in my thoughts, her haunting presence a constant reminder of the darkness that had unfolded. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was somehow connected to the disappearances, that her behavior had unleashed something sinister. The uncertainty gnawed at me, a relentless ache that refused to fade. What had happened to the other guests? Were they safe, or had they met a deadly fate? As night fell, the shadows grew longer, and the town took on an eerie quality. I found myself glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see the woman's ghostly figure lurking in the darkness. The fear that had gripped me at the resort now clung to me like a second skin, a constant reminder that danger could still be lurking just beyond my sight. The uncertainty of it all was suffocating, and I knew that I had to uncover the truth behind the chaos before it consumed me entirely. The resort had changed everything, and I was determined to find answers, no matter the cost. As we wrap up this intense narrative, I encourage you to reflect on the themes presented in this story. How often do we overlook the shadows lurking in our lives, believing we are safe? The journey from heartbreak to survival is one that resonates with many, and it's a reminder that we must remain vigilant, even in seemingly secure environments. If you found this story compelling, please consider subscribing to the channel for more gripping narratives that explore the complexities of human emotions and the darker sides of life. Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends who might appreciate a thrilling tale that keeps them on the edge of their seats. Your support helps us create more content that dives into the depths of human experience, exploring themes of love, loss, and survival. Additionally, check out our related content for more stories that delve into the unexpected twists of life. Whether it's tales of survival, psychological thrillers, or personal reflections, there's something for everyone. Join our community as we navigate the intricate tapestry of human emotions and the shadows that sometimes accompany them. Thank you for watching, and remember to stay curious and aware, for you never know what lies just beyond the surface.